Hello and welcome to the Ask Colm and Janeshow. Today we are putting Colm on the spotlight. We were asking him probably, I wouldn't say awkward questions, but just putting you on the spot slightly of your journey, where you've come so far, and I'm sure you being you, you'll have the perfect answer for all of them. None of this is rehearsed, so I am putting him on the spot slightly. Colm, as you talk about your journey, where I suppose you were, where you've come, what you've went through, and where you are now. A few of the questions around, education. There's so much pressure on education at the minute, and I think it's something that would be really important to talk about because you could inspire so many people about this. A lot of people have this idea that education is everything, and if you don't fit into the education system, there's certain paths that will lay out for you, and that's the belief system that you talked about before. Can you just kind of give people a bit of a background of your story of kind of where you've went through and some tips that you've went through to get to where you are today, I suppose?
I suppose education is important.
Yeah.
Definitely is important. It definitely teaches you maybe structure and certain things. But I suppose the biggest problem with it is that looking back now is that we lay so much pressure on it that you know that's going to define who you are and what your outcome is, and understanding that the only thing that's constant in life is change, so it doesn't define who you are. But I mean, going back to me, I suppose, look at school back then was one way you would have fitted into kind of how you learned or how you didn't learn. School today is a much better place. There's probably a lot more pressure on school, particularly going into leaving certs and stuff today, but they've also done a lot of work, particularly over the past 5, maybe 10 years, in adopting to how people learn in one thing or other. I suppose going back to myself, I suppose, I would have some scary memories. Looking back now today, I suppose made me stronger in who I am today, but back then didn't really realise it. So there's certain things, I suppose, looking particularly going into secondary school, I was quite disruptive, I was quite cheeky, whatever way you want to kind of put it, so I was. But looking back now, I suppose back then I was insecure as fuck, I suppose, because I wasn't good at spelling, so I tried to cover it up by being the class clown and other things. So it well, I don't know whether it worked for me or not, but it got me through it.
But just going on that and what you're after saying, as you say, you thought you just were a bad speller, and that's a belief system that you thought. But I suppose when you say the education system's slightly better now, that the diagnose maybe people with dyslexia like yourself, that it's okay, that like you can still achieve in life and it won't hold you back.
Yeah, well, I mean, like back then, right, the way it was basically, you need certs, you need paper, right? So to get certs, to get paper, you need to be good at spelling, you need to be fit to sit exams, you need to be fit to do those things. So that didn't make sense to me because I couldn't do that. So how do I get my piece of paper or qualifications or college or whatever it is? So it didn't, like, that's the way it was explained to me. So it didn't really fit in. So to me straight away, well, I'm not good at exams. I'm not good at hoovering stuff up and projecting it back out later on. I'm not good at that. So I also was very impatient, so I didn't believe in studying. That was never going to happen. Like believe it or not, so many people say, I literally went a full 3 years in secondary school and never presented homework once. Never presented homework once.
And I suppose it goes back to, maybe certain teachers you felt like, there is certain teachers that even train here and would talk about that they can see different personalities now, and they have that broader picture, whereas you felt maybe growing up that you didn't get that service of understanding, I suppose.
Definitely not. Look at it, I think it was my third, fourth class at school. I had a teacher that was a lot of bad memories, particularly when he really exposed my spelling, exposed it to the whole class, in an area where I used to have to do my spellings, and when I got them wrong, everybody got to shout hurry up in Irish. I don't even know what it was. It did ring in my head for years, but they used to make me, so that was a very, very, that was my mother, an awful job to get me to go to school, and particularly in them 2 years, because it's come from a small school. There was third and fourth classes in the one room, so you're in the one room for 2 years. You couldn't even escape it after 1 year. Most bigger schools now, you've got a new teacher for every year. I had that one teacher for that 2 years. So then when I went into 5th and 6th class, I think I went maybe fifth class where I never missed. I missed 3 days at school, which was like, whoa, from one extreme to the other extreme, because I was kind of loving the way the teacher handled, or my new teacher in 5th and 6th class kind of dealt with me. I moved into first year then, and I kind of was pretty good, liked going to school, quite enjoyed it. Then second year was completely rebelled. Looking back now, not knowing back then, but looking back now, that my second year teacher replicated my 3rd and 4th class, and I put my foot down and I just rebelled.
So you had emotions that you attached to it?
My emotions was, I don't fit into her system, she doesn't give a shit about me, and she's there to make my life hell. And I'm like, I've been through this, I've been on that, and I took it on the chin the last time, and I'm not taking it on the chin this time, and I completely rebelled. Look, I got suspended something like 14 times in 1 year. That's a lot. But looking back now, but back then that was the emotions I was attached with. I was like, I've been in this situation before, I did not like it, and when I became in it again, I just totally rebelled with it.
But you know, it's good to hear these stories, because not everybody fits into the education system as it is, and not everybody has the same strengths and imperfections, as I was calling them. So it's about actually saying there was so much more to you that maybe the school system didn't show up, and that was different strengths. I think that kind of sums up that end of things, and what steps did you take to actually realise that you can learn in so many different ways, and how you learn, and I watch you every single day, you just want to learn, and you're so passionate about learning. But how did you find your way of learning?
Yeah, I've always wanted to learn. Even when I was at school, I wanted to learn. I always wanted to learn, but it was about someone taking time, I suppose, to teach me when I was younger. Then I suppose as you get older yourself, you kind of you become a little bit more courageous, and you take on tasks like that. I suppose for me, in looking at your education system and getting older and going through things, is that I suppose school would have always taught you, I suppose, to focus on your imperfections or your weakness, and that's kind of where school is that they teach you how to work on them. Where I suppose I was well in my 20s, where I realised that the big bad world is actually you got to double up on your strengths and maintain your weaknesses. And that's when I kind of wrapped my head around that one. Things started looking a lot more brighter for me. How do you figure that out? I suppose. Look at how I suppose I figured it out was when you get to a place where you're completely stuck and you need change. Scary, but you need change. I suppose that's where I started, maybe with a pen and piece of paper, journaling, and I started written down once upon a time, I wrote down every job I've ever worked in. I wrote down, would they take me back, and the answer was yes. Why would they take me back, and the answer to that was that I always wanted to learn. So that can really open my eyes. I'm like, whoa, I've always wanted to learn, so how do I learn best? So I remember going at that time thinking, right, well, I'm going back to do my leaving cert, I need to work on my spellings, I need to spell to get there. Still had that planted in my head, but it actually turned out to be, I was like, you know yourself, I was down in Monaghan, adult education, ready, get in to look at the papers to kind of do it, and then I'm just like, no, this is still zooming in on my imperfections or weaknesses, and I'm like, I've got so much more, so many other ways I can learn by doing, and I don't mind doing stuff. So just about actually wrapping my head around that one. And then that's where I kind of realised that, you know, I got to do more shit. I'm not good at spelling, but I can talk. I can talk.
We all know that. I suppose just to sum that question up, you already kind of touched base on it, but one step for somebody that maybe has that belief system and changing, like, you know, you said you started writing down things, you know, one step for somebody to change, to just take away from that question.
Yeah, I suppose one step is I talk about, look, at the only thing that's constant in life is change, and that your current situation is never going to be what it's always going to be. It's always adaptable to change. You hear me talk a lot about self-awareness. I suppose just diving into that one, I suppose, like really zoom into yourself in here, and maybe what you've been doing, what you enjoy doing, other things like that. I know when someone says, like, like write down a list of your imperfections and your strengths. We'll always write down a big list. Focus on that one and start to actually not be so hard on yourself. Not be hard on yourself, and write down generally what kind of does make you feel good and things like that. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's answered that. Just another huge topic that I suppose we've been asked about in the past, and it's something that I wanted your kind of experience on, is a lot of people live all their life maybe in a job that's not fulfillment, or they don't get job satisfaction. But I think a lot of people, the reason why they live in that kind of long-term, suppose, unhappiness in their career or job is because of that fear of changing their career path. And it's very hard for people who maybe are going into a job every day that they're comfortable in, everybody knows what to do, they're, maybe they have job security there, but they're not getting job satisfaction. To leave that's a huge leap, and you've went through that transition from being in construction for so many years and realising that, I suppose, that career change and where you are today. Can you just kind of give the viewers something to take home in kind of how you felt when you were in that position and going through that journey, and steps that you took to maybe make that change?
Oh yeah, that one was a big one for me. Like from the minute I left school, I went straight into a job. Probably the next day, me being me. And I continued in that job for 8 years. The last, at least 2.5 years, it was literally just go to work and come home. There was not a lot of enjoyment, fulfillment in it. And even when I knew for 2 years that I needed a change. But fear, it's easy to stay in your comfort zone. It's easy to stay in that comfort zone. But fear, I suppose, was a massive one for me. Even then, I suppose it was tricky. I suppose it was in the recession. There wasn't a lot of work floating around that time, so it was extra scary that time.
Yeah.
Maybe in today, maybe there's a lot more options flying around, so you could take them.
Yeah.
Back then, like the advice, like listening to other people's advice probably flooded out my head too, which wasn't great. Getting advice from everybody, and everybody knows best, yourself.
Yeah.
But I suppose it really boiled down to my own decisions and what I really wanted to do myself. Going into the probably valuing money, like, well, I'm not going to leave a job for less money, all of those other things. Sometimes that may not be a bad thing. Like back then, you start counting in all those kind of options. For me, on the latter end of it was I needed a change. I just needed a change. Absolutely scared the life out of me.
Yeah.
Scared the life out of me. But scared the life out of me. Made that decision, said that was it. I was sticking with it, I was going with it. Went to my next job, scared the crap out of me. Looking back now, it scared the crap out of me for a week.
Yeah.
That new job. But it actually, after that first week, I found a spark in myself again, and that really made me feel good. It was a new challenge, it was new everything, and I'm like, all that scariness, all that fear, everything else, for that feeling now that I got getting up in the morning, it was worth every minute of it. And that's where it really sunk into me that fear actually is learning and growing. Fear is growth. And looking back, that's what really made that one for me. What advice would I give? I mean, don't dive into anything. Like, people just, I did that too in New Zealand. I went to work one day and I emailed, handed in my notice. I got a phone call to say why, and I couldn't answer the question. Don't take a rash decision. Don't dive in. Whatever it may be, people nowadays may have mortgages, they may have kids, they may have, look at financial reasons. I suppose, if it is a job and you want to get out of it, and it is for financial reasons that you can't afford to be off work for a few weeks, or it is a pay cut or whatever it may be, I suppose take time, give yourself maybe 6 months, 12 months, maybe if you start your own business, whatever it is, take time, maybe save money that you're going to, finance is the big reason why people don't leave a job, whereas it should be placed on happiness and fulfillment rather than finance. When you get your happiness and fulfillment and the finance and kind of come, it's scary, very, very scary, and that's what it was for me. But if you could just understand that fear is growth. It did scare me for 2.5 years. It took me to make that decision, so it did. Looking back, I wish I had did it in 6 months, but it is what it is. but fear is growth, and it was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah, no, that's super. I think that there's a lot of value in that, Colm, so that was really good. I'm going to shift the topic slightly, but again, probably putting you on the spot. Sleeping patterns is something that, doing consultations and that people talk about a lot, being tired and sleep, and it's something that you would have often talked about getting into a routine of sleep patterns, and there's a lot of people out there, especially on watches and stuff now, it really shows kind of how much sleep people are actually getting, or how little sleep people are actually getting. And I know it's a journey that you've come through, maybe not something that you talk about as much, but I think it's an important topic.
Oh, it's very, very, very important. And I'm a shit sleeper. A lot better today than I was back then. And tried a lot of different things. It's very, very frustrating. So it is very, very frustrating. I suppose for me, when the minute my head hit the pillow, I would just reminisce the whole day. Like, if I wanted to be asleep at 10 o'clock, I'd have to go to bed at 9 o'clock. It would take me an hour to switch off, wind down. Sleep is very, very important. Like I suppose, as I was talking to you during the week, like, we've averaged 900 months in a lifetime. We will sleep 300 of them. Like, so that's 1/3 of your life you're going to sleep, and it sounds like, wow, that's such a waste, like, but it goes to show how important it is to actually how we function. But I suppose for me, I just reminisced through my whole day. I went down the road of, I suppose, putting in the earphones, trying meditation. Didn't really work for me, couldn't switch off, couldn't untune, and I'm still a firm believer of trying everything for 21 times. It still didn't really work for me. I tried magnesium. I take magnesium supplement for sleep. I tried to do that kind of thing. At the time, I thought they were working. I took a chemical called GABA, a supplement called GABA, which is a chemical that's in your brain that actually helps you switch off. I've tried CBD oil. I've literally tried everything. But actually right now I'm actually taking nothing, and I'm probably sleeping my best. It's not to say that I suppose the difference between then and now is now that the way it kind of operates is your mind's like an internet browser, and throughout the day you could open 15, 18, 19 tabs, and when I went to bed I had 19 tabs open and probably about 6 of them frozen, so I would probably have to take me an hour to start to switch them all off. But now, like, tabs that I shouldn't have had open, what the difference between then and now is that I've actually tried to build a set of skills and tips that I don't open 19 tabs in a day anymore. I probably only aim to open 8-9 tabs in a day, that when I do go to bed I can shut them down a lot quicker. So the tip for me around that one is that stop letting dumb shit annoy you. And that's how we open too many tabs. We're letting small shit annoy us on a day-to-day basis. And one of my goals on a day-to-day basis is not to open 19 tabs, is max 10 tabs. It'll probably help me then when I get to bed at night. And now when I monitor my sleeping, which I'm obsessed with monitoring everything, now when I monitor it, I find it now that this is the most effective, it's probably the best I've ever slept, and not really getting bogged down in stuff that I can't control, and opening tabs, and maybe do open a tab but shut it down there and then, and control the controllable, and those sort of things. If that's kind of making, but sleep is super important, definitely super important.
Okay, so here's one for you. Who or what inspires you? Because for me, I was thinking about what questions I could ask you and put you on the spot. Kate's laughing because she thinks I want you to say me, but this is not where this is going. It's more of like you have a real never give up attitude, and it's something that inspires me, of like, how do you keep focused on that never give up attitude? Like, no matter what we go through in business, you have that never give up attitude. Have you any tips for people listening that, like, if they're starting a fitness journey, if they're starting a weight loss journey or a business or whatever it is that they're starting, to have that, I suppose, resilience or drive to just keep going?
Yeah, look, I suppose in understanding in those key things, I would build a lot of tips around my day-to-day basis, small little things that keeps me on track. With that kind of, as you say, that attitude. We all, on a day-to-day basis, without a doubt, there's hurdles, obstacles consistently fired our directions, and too many of us are getting bogged down in the hurdles rather than jumping over them. You know what I mean? We're stopping them, maybe saying that they're there and saying I'm never going to jump that, rather than going at them. So I suppose like my days run on constantly little things that'll run through my head. Basically, like I suppose one is the reason why people lose is because they want stuff fast when life is long. So really what I've kind of built in there is that I understand that life is long and I don't get bogged down. And look, for me, like everything had to be perfect. Yeah. Perfection was a massive problem for me. And I realised after a while that because everything had to be so perfect, I was getting nothing done. So then I kind of realised when I flipped it around, I was like, let's make progress. So let's start doing stuff, getting feedback, see is it working, one thing, another. And then the ball started rolling. So into where I wanted to kind of go. So like what keeps me inspired is I just have little quotes or tips in my head that I just keep running through my head, basic all the time. That just keeps me fired up. It keeps my spark lit. Those sort of things. For me, like I would have been the way I suppose the best way I can maybe describe this one is that we're constantly trying to make things happen and make it happen fast. If you could just imagine a flag in a window and it's buzzing and buzzing, like we generally believe that if we could just do a little bit more, we can get a whole lot more done. And just like that flag in the window, he's buzzing, he tries a little bit harder, and the harder he tries, the more he thinks he's going to get out there. The sun's shining, the wind's blowing, it's a beautiful day out there, and he wants out there. And he's just constantly just trying a little bit harder to get out, and he tries a little bit harder. He's never going to get through the window. He's never going to get through the pane of the glass. You come back a couple of hours later and he's lying on the butt of his back with his legs in the air, completely burnt out. That was me. And trying to make things happen that wasn't supposed to really happen. Like it's not supposed to be that hard or complicated. Whereas you just drop your tools, take time, become a little bit more relaxed. The door was actually open the other end of the room. You could have actually went out the door. Things are not, we try to kind of make things happen rather than how they should happen. That's kind of what inspires me. That's what keeps me going. Little things like that, knowing that the only thing that's constant in life is change. Life's always changing. Your current situation will never always be your situation. Patience is another one. I suppose going into the question, who inspires me? It's a good question, I suppose. I kind of would take traits of people that I kind of like.
Yeah, you would have mentioned that before. That's a really interesting.
I kind of like just traits that I see in people that I think is really interesting, and I try to build them into my own. For instance, I would have a brother, and if this building fell, he wouldn't break a sweat. So nothing really seemed to faze him or panic him or stress him, and I'm like, yeah, I'm the complete opposite of that. Maybe I would like to. So maybe when I do go to get excited or go to thing, I kind of go, well,
what would your brother do?
My brother wouldn't get too stressed or thing like that. So that was kind of one thing.
Yeah.
I kind of run off three. Another one was another brother of mine, which strangely, and I remember telling you this and you were like, that's a bit bizarre because we think they all should be famous and role models and everything else. The other one was another brother of mine, and you would never hear him say a bad thing about anybody. And I thought that was fascinating. And I mean, if there was a bottle of whiskey on the job, he still wouldn't say a bad thing. And I mean, like, nobody goes through life without people doing bad things to you.
Yeah. But
never got bogged into those sort of things. Never, just have resilience in that thing. And I remember kind of thinking, wow, wouldn't that be a wonderful place to be? Like, you know, not focusing and badmouthing and kind of always moaning about other people, and kind of, it just makes you become more grounded in yourself.
Yeah.
It means your energy's in yourself rather than other people. You can't control other people, but you can control yourself. Then I suppose Brian Keane, once upon a time, would have been in Galway, which is fitness kind of guru or whatever, influence or whatever you want to call it. Just his energy. He was always 5 o'clock in the morning, he'd be doing Q&As and he'd be just full of energy. Yeah. And I just thought, like, wow, wasn't that an amazing place to be, just full of that energy. So when I get in any of them situations where I feel I don't have energy, I maybe spring Brian Keane to mind, or if I get in panic, I spring the brother to mind, or if I feel a situation that I want to bitch and moan, I bring the other. So it's all of you, as you can kind of see, it's kind of like little systems and tips that kind of keep me on that scale.
Super. Just the last one we're going to touch base on is your environment is key to success, and it's something that we talk about a lot. Like, one of the keys to success is, like, you know, who you spend your time with, who you're around, you know, the energy you get off people. I suppose just if anybody's out there in changing their environment, maybe they feel like they go into work every day and there's a negative vibe in work, you know, what sort of, you know, you talked already about controlling what you can control, just small tips on that, I suppose.
Yeah, look, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Like, environment is key, but like, what can you control and you can't control? I suppose you can't control your family. You can control your friends, even though we probably believe that we can't. Work, you can also control in the right manner, I suppose. Like, it is super important for me. Even growing up, it was an important one for me. I farmed for 17 years. I generally do have a passion for farming. It's there. The environment just wasn't great, I suppose. Farming on a family farm and things like that, it just wasn't great. There wasn't a lot of praise or compliments. It was just kind of do it, and the more you did, the more was expected of you to do. So it wasn't great for me. It kind of, look, at too much negativity leaves you weak and scared, and that's probably where it left me growing up, kind of thing. So I just had to assess it. It was a hard decision for me to make. I had to quit farming. It's knowing, I just, at the time, kind of what I planted in my mind was that I can go back to it. If I just kind of get my feet on the ground, up and running, and I probably will retire farming. Probably is probably my goal. But know that it just wasn't working out for me right then, and maybe it was something that I kind of maybe just had to put aside. And I had more maybe important things to kind of do right then. It didn't make sense, and that may be the case for somebody with their friends and one thing and another, or even family. Like, you know what I mean. In just touching base, you can always touch base with them, but maybe spend more time with the ones that maybe give you the energy rather than the ones that suck the energy from you.
Yeah, but you often would have talked about understanding people's a big one there for environment. Would you feel that kind of would help? Do you know, if you're in a work environment and there's one person in particular that's causing a lot of negativity, like understanding maybe that person is going through other stuff that you don't know about, or having that bit of empathy. I think that's a
like back then, I suppose for me, I didn't understand any of this. I didn't understand any of this, but looking back now, I suppose misery loves company.
Yeah.
And when somebody's miserable in the workplace, that's what they're going to projectile around it. And understand another, like, that's one thing that would for me. And then hurt people. So there is people that's in the workforce, or family members, or whatever it is. Hurt people will hurt people, and understanding that it's not your fault.
Yeah,
and
I think
it's not your fault. And if you can, like, when that person is maybe being hurtful or saying nasty things or treating you like shit or whatever it is, just bring that to mind straight away. And understand that it's their insecurities and it's their issues that they're projectiling onto you. It's not yours.
Or maybe then people just don't have the skills to, you know.
Exactly, they probably don't at that present time. And I suppose if they're bringing you to their level, that's comforting them. Whereas when you kind of respond to them and when you not react to them, and kind of you keep your spark lit and you keep your positivity there, that person will actually probably end up going and reassessing themselves. Yeah. And probably that might actually be the ground to actually helping them overcome maybe some of their issues. Because, as I say, misery loves company. So if everybody's miserable in the one pot, they're in their comfort zone. Whereas in the other kind of thing, it can scale back the way.
And it is very easy to get sucked into that. If you come into a workplace or to go home or whatever in good form, and then there's, as you say, the negative vibes there, it's very easy to get sucked into it and also be negative. But once you start getting that awareness of understanding that maybe that's kind of all they know, they don't have the skills to do such and such, I think then you can start to become more grounded in yourself and not get sucked into the negativity. I think it's
definitely and becoming, look at, I mean, it's everything starts here and everything is here, and it's becoming grounded in yourself. People look at, and I mean, there is we take too much on, we take too much. Like, there generally is people that could generally say something that generally didn't mean anything bad of it, but maybe just put it out there, and now we're away with our thoughts and one thing or another. We do intend to overthink everything, which is a massive one as well, and just kind of letting shit kind of go. Control the controllable, I suppose, is an important one on that one. But environment is important when it comes to family members as well. Spend time with the ones that give you more energy, and just touch base with the ones that don't kind of maybe drain you that little bit more. Don't react. Don't respond. Don't put yourself into a place or saying stuff back because you're getting drawn into where it is. If that's who they are, let them be who they are. It's not your fault. The worst thing you could do is respond or react to that, because it now brings you down to that level, and you're not going to get the best out of yourself. Let them be who they are, and you can't change them. They can only change themselves. But you keep giving what gives you best. Like, you've heard me say on this one before, I suppose. A lot of people maybe talk about being tired and stuff, and one of the main reasons for that is they're not actually doing enough of what actually lights their spark. So if being positive and being in a good mood and being energetic is yours, and you're in the company of somebody that drains that and takes out the other side of you, don't let them take out the other side of you, because that will drain the life out of you, if that makes sense. But I mean, definitely double up on the people that does give you energy, whether it's friends, family, work, whatever it is. That's what it is. And if that's in the canteen and you're sitting with a table of drainers, and you move away to the ones that give you energy, and you're gonna be insecure as into, are they bad mouthing about you or whatever it is. But like, if this is going to serve you better or a different table, you got to go for it. Like, you've got to do it. You've got to stop valuing other people's opinions, and do what serves you best.
Super cool. Thanks very much, Colm. I think a lot of people, we've covered a good few topics there, and you know, one topic could be more important to somebody than the other. Even listening to you there now, although I kind of have gone through a lot of your journeys with you, it continues to inspire me, and I hope to God that a lot of people take inspiration from that. It's not easy to talk about kind of the struggles that we went through, but I think the more people talk about it, that the more easier it's going to become.
Yeah, look at everybody's at war with their own thoughts. But everybody also thinks they're the only person that's at war with their own thoughts. Everybody goes through it. Everybody's at war with their own thoughts. The thing about it is that we know what we should do, and we're like, going back to that one. Like, I knew I needed to change my job, and I knew I needed to change my job. I was talking it through my head every day. I knew what I needed to do. I knew what I wanted to do, but it like, looking back now, like, I thought I knew it all, and I thought I was like, I needed to do it, but I wasn't taking the actions. But the biggest thing, we're at war with our own thoughts, and we think that, oh, I know what I need to do, but we're not actually doing it. I think when you actually say it out loud, you actually can, you will now take action. And I think that's a really important one. And so many people are like, oh, I know what I need to do, but I think the fact when you say it out loud, that it actually starts to become, that's actually the point where you will actually take action. The power of communicating and talking. If you feel you're reminiscing something through your head, sit down and just talk to somebody. Just have a conversation with them and say, this is what I need to do. And trust me, when you say stuff out loud, it now actually makes sense. That's when it actually has become a reality with you. And that's actually when you will start to take the steps to actually changing it. Super important. And we're afraid of what other people will think and judge and say. People like helping people. And if you're going to the right person at all, go to someone that gives you energy and just sit down and talk with them and say, whether it's a job, career, maybe that's whoever in your company that you maybe feel most comfortable with, or whatever it kind of is. But understand that everybody's at war with their own thoughts. Everybody also thinks they're the only person that's at war with their own thoughts. When from mentoring people and coaching people are like, oh, this is going to sound stupid. Nothing's going to sound stupid, but once you say it out loud,